Hello, I just received my copy of the Nordwind 1945, a new game of the great battles of 1939 and 1945, released by the Polish company TIS. It is a game about the last major German offensive operation at the Western Front during World War II. It somehow remains in the shadow of the other major German offensive operations, just like battle in Ardennes or on the Eastern Front, whole battles near Budapest. So, because of this, I think that Nordwind is a little less known battle, but also it makes this battle more interesting, because how many games we can get about Ardennes, about Normandy, about Market Garden, even about Budapest. But I don't think there is much about battles that took place at the January and February of 1945 near Strasbourg and Colmar. Also, it is, I think, a good idea to point that German strategy till the end of the war was to attack. Germans, it seems that the Germans rarely thought about creating any solid defensive positions, about using their forces to defend their lines, but rather to attack and attack again, on the Eastern Front and on the Western Front. Even if the enemy was much stronger, had much more artillery, aircraft, tanks, infantry, Germans still tried to attack, to find some kind of miracle, to perform a breakthrough and to destroy a lot of enemy units in the destructive attack. It was of course useless, because even if their attacks sometimes managed to score some results and to destroy some of the enemy units, it wasn't simply enough to change the fate of the war and to change the situation on the front. I think it was Hitler's idea to attack constantly, instead of creating some good, well-prepared lines of defense. But not only Hitler, most of the German commanders were trained in the attack, and they believed that attacking is the only good way to change the course of the history. So, Operation Nordwind is a perfect example of such a situation. It took place at the end of the Battle of Bulk, and even when the Battle of Bulk took place and on the Eastern Front Germans tried to free Budapest with their operations Conrad I, Conrad II and Conrad III, they gathered some troops, mostly infantry, but also some armored units as well, and performed another strike to destroy American 7th Army. And that's that's about what this game is. But it's not only about the German offensive, as you will see later. So let's talk a bit about the game itself, because I think I talk a lot about the other stuff which is not very important, even if it's interesting, I believe. So about cover, we have two German tanks, and quite different ones, because König II and Panzer IV II. As for me, I still like Panzer IV more, because I just like this tank, and I never liked Tigers or Tigers II. But the illustration is quite dynamic. It looks good. I wouldn't mind getting more information on the box. I think it could be a good idea to point some more about where the battle took place and so. But that's the idea of the publisher, because like you could see before, most of their games has such a style. So if you collect them, you get a similar covers with similar illustrations, mostly with tanks. Okay, so let's take a look on the box. Oh, box has a magnetic lid. TIS is using this kind of boxes, I think, since about a year, and this is quite unique because I don't think I have seen any other wargaming company using this. It looks fine, cool. I like this box a lot. So on the other side of the board we have small information about battle, some example of the counters and board, and the miniature of the entire map, along with some other games coming from this company, some already released like Katyn, Tannenberg or Warsaw 1920, some are coming like Pacific 1941, 1945 or Westerplatte 1939. Okay, so let's take a look inside. We have 1d6. This system uses 2d6, so you will have to roll twice this die or get one another. And now we have a rulebook. So let's start with the rulebook. It is printed on the normal paper, which is good because sometimes they print their rulebooks on that shiny paper, and as for me, I don't like this shiny paper when it comes to the rulebooks, because rulebooks are meant to be written, to be read, and when I read something, I prefer normal paper. So I have a Polish edition of this game, of course, so I have this rulebook in Polish, but when you order this game from outside of Poland, you can ask a publisher to send you English copy of the rulebook. So we have rules for great battles of Second World War, 1939-1945 system. So this is quite an easy system. It uses regiment scale, sometimes battalion or division. Battalions as for special units like tank destroyers or Tigers, and divisions when it comes to Soviets, because Soviet infantry divisions were actually equal to the strength of the regiments or brigades, rather than divisions of the German or Western armies. So this is quite an easy system, but still quite cool and fast to play and quite easy to learn, I believe. It has 12 pages of rules and 4 pages of no, 3 sorry, 3 pages of tables. 1, 2, and one should be at the end, I believe. Yes, here is the combat table. And so what we have here, we have modifiers table, terrain table, bombers table, ground attack aircraft table, artillery table, and destruction of the objects table. And next we have scenarios. First scenario is Nordwind Colmar. So this is a scenario about whole Nordwind operations and the fights around Colmar. Colmar was the last French city which was occupied by Germans. So it was quite important for French armies to capture this city. And also, because of that, we have German armies on one side and Americans and some French units on the other side. It is quite a longer scenario. It starts with 31 December of 1944 and ends at 5 of February 1945. But there is also informations. Players may choose to play only a first part of this game, of this scenario, which is focused on the Nordwind operation, and it ends at 19 January. So it's shorter. Next we have a Colmar battle, which is just like I said before, it was a very important city for French armies. So French units wanted to capture Colmar all by themselves. But the Germans weren't eager to give it back so easily, and it resulted with yet another fierce battle. So this is a bit shorter scenario. It starts at 20 December. It ends at 5 January, so it's shorter than the previous scenario, and it's smaller, I think. Next we have the 7th Army scenario, and this is the scenario about American counterattack. After the failure of the Nordwind operations, Americans are counterattacking against retreating Germans. So this is finally a scenario when Americans have an initiative and they are attacking instead of defending. This is quite a short scenario because it takes place only at 10 days, since starting with 20 January to 13 January 1945. It uses only half of the board, so it's much smaller as well. And you can see that there is a small number of units than we have in the biggest of the scenarios. So, here we have reinforcements track with new units coming on the board in the given days. And oh no, they printed English version of the scenarios in the rulebook as well. I don't know if it's on purpose or it's just a mistake, but it seems, yes, we have a full scenarios of here in English too. So when you get the game, you will get all the scenarios in English as well. You just need to get an English version of the system rules. And oh, this is reinforcements track in English as well. And here we have a combat table and disorganization table. So that's when it comes to the rulebook. Let's move forward. And next we have counters. We have two counter sheets. One is all for Germans and one is for Allies, plus we have some markers like lack of supply markers, disorganization markers, and victory points markers, turn track, and so and so. Let's take a look a bit on these counters. As you can see, here we have Germans. I believe that you already noticed that there is not much German tanks here. Instead of Ardennes of Budapest, where you have a lot of German armored units attacking, here you have a majority of the German units are infantry. We have even some Cossack cavalry units, some paratroop units, some SS forces, but German units are not very strong. But notice that some of them have a star. These stars are a modifier showing that we have that this particular unit is stronger, has some special abilities, and so on. It depends on the color of the stars. White stars are anti-tank, black stars are battle-hardened units, and so on and so on. But regular German units are not very strong here. Well, this is the end of the war, so German units are not very strong. They suffered a lot big losses, and so on. And next we have Allies. We have Americans and French units. And now you can tell the difference when it comes to the number of the armored units of the Allies and as for Germans. Yes, there is a difference. But notice that even if Allies have a lot of tank units, and they are usually stronger than German units, since they have mostly six strength points, like while German units have 4, 2, sometimes even 2, 3, then Allied units have no stars. Since they are not as experienced as Germans, they don't have such fancy equipment like Germans, so they are more regular units armed with good old reliable Shermans, rather than these fancy Tigers, Jagd Tigers, and so on. Even so, Allied units are stronger when you compare infantry, for example. Notice the typical German infantry regiment has 3 strength points, while typical American infantry regiment has 5 strength points. So Americans are visibly stronger, and remember that at last in the one scenario, Germans are attacking. Of course, there are two other scenarios when French units and American units are attacking, which makes much more sense if we compare strength. But you have to remember that at last in the Nordwind scenario, these are Germans who are attacking. So it can be quite a hard thing to do for Germans. All counters are die cut, and they are quite thick, as you can see. You don't have to cut the corners, I believe, because as you can see they are coming out of the sheet quite easily without any stuff here. This is a problem for me when I get American games, because I have to cut the corners, because there is always some dirt on the corners, while here we have a very clear corners. Of course, if you like to clip your counters, you may clip this as well. This is not a problem, I believe. But I like to get my counters ready to play without any additional stuff. But nothing is perfect. And when I said about cutting and stuff, now here we have some stuff to do. Because we have fortification counters and camouflage counters. Camouflage counters are optional. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. They are quite useful if you play against another human player, because you may camouflage your units, and enemy player doesn't know what already is under such a counter till the moment of the combat. But they don't give any additional modifiers to combat, to movement, and so. Because of that, if you play solitaire, or you don't just don't want to use them, you don't have to. And next we have fortifications counters, and well, you have to use your scissor and cut them all by yourself. I think this is a major problem with this system, because you have still to cut some of your counters, like in the 80s or 70s, I believe. This is interesting with the high quality of these counters and very old school quality of these counters. And finally, we have a board. A board is divided into two separate parts, because some scenarios are played on just on the one of these boards, and the others are played on the other. But you can also link them together. Here we have a northern map. Oh, and it is just straight from the box, so I will need to make it a bit more flat. As you can see, the terrain is, well, not quite friendly to attack. A lot of mountains, a lot of hills, some mountains here and there, a lot of woods, and some roads coming through. So if you remember Battle of Bulk, I think this is something that looks quite similar, because it's just me. It makes me feel like I'm in the Ardennes again when I look at this map. And next we have, here we have a southern part of the board. Okay, here we have a turn track, here we have a combat table, a legend for the board, and, well, a bit more clear terrain here, but also mountains, also more mountains, some woods. Again, a very complicated terrain, and attacking in such a place was definitely not the most brilliant idea. Here we have a German fortifications, so you can notice again that Germans had some quite a good defensive position here, with a major river, some fortifications coming next to this river, so it was just enough to stay there, fortify and drive allies away. But no, it was Hitler, and he had to attack, because he knew that he was right. We also have markings on the board. I believe these are showing initial positions of the Germans, or maybe a victory point, I don't know, I will have to check it later, because this might be a victory point as well. And a board has to be joined together in such style. I can't place it here because I don't have enough space to show you with my camera, but it has to be something like this. And like I said before, we have a scenarios that we play only on this map or on that map above, and there is one big scenario for both of the boards. So that's all when it comes to this game. I just received this game, so I'm going to play this soon and to see how it works. I'm quite curious because you could notice that German forces are not very strong. Terrain, well, is not very attacking friendly, so this can be quite a interesting and hard situation for Germans. But as for me, I have to say that I like battles when we don't have an equal chances, when we don't have a chess situation, when each side has, well, quite a same number of units. But I like games where one side is much stronger and one side has a very hard task to do. It's just me. So I think this game might be something like this. I like the fact that we have scenarios when Germans are attacking and there are scenarios when allies are attacking. This is not very often in such games. So I think I'm going to play it soon. Maybe I will be able to even record some of my gameplays on the camera and put it on my YouTube channel later. We will see. But as for now, that's all. Thank you for watching.